Hello, and thank you for joining me on another edition of the Wealth Nation podcast. I'm Yolanda. I'm a wealth advisor. And on this platform, I give you easy, actionable tips, content, and strategies that you can use to manage money well, to live abundantly, and build generational wealth. I was reading recently, I saw a very interesting stat recently that 9 out of 10 Spartans hated bad debt. Then I found another stat that said that 8 out of 10 Spartans love to leverage good debt to their advantage. So in this episode, we're going to talk about good debt and bad debt. And sometimes it can make sense to take on debt to increase your wealth. And to do that, we're going to have to go through the various forms of bad debt along with the good debt and give you examples of each one. And hopefully by the end, we've given you a way forward on how you can leverage good and bad debt to your advantage. So we need to begin with this one thing. You want to get out of debt, specifically high interest debt. And there's times that it makes sense to take on debt in your life. And now it might sound a little strange because, I always talk about getting out of bad debt on my content, on my platform, social media and all of that. But now here I come telling you to get into some good debt. A lot of people will tell you never get into debt for anything, but that's just not true. And in many cases, to truly understand the difference between good and bad debt, we need to take a look at both of them separately. So what is bad debt? To easily understand what bad debt is, you got to think about things that you borrow money for that will not give you some sort of return while carrying that debt. You can also think of it as things that basically depreciate. Depreciation is when you're not getting a return on that item. Now let's go through a couple of examples of bad debt. Car loans are one of the worst types of bad debt out there. It's an item that not only costs you money to maintain, it greatly decreases in value at a very fast rate. Okay, now when I say car loans, I'm not including business loans here, okay? Because usually if you're buying a vehicle for business purposes, you're generating an income, you get some great tax benefits as well. Okay, this is your post-tax income that you're spending on luxury cars that you shouldn't be doing, especially if you're on an aggressive wealth building journey. Next is credit cards. Super bad debt. This one actually makes an appearance on both good and bad debt list, but I'll explain the good side in a couple of minutes. Now, a credit card will be considered bad debt for anything that you put on your credit card that is charged interest. So you don't pay it off in that interest-free period. That can be anything you put in your card, from a laptop, gym equipment, and anything that you're not getting a return from. Those items are not helping you produce an income of some sort. And if it is producing an income, maybe it's not giving you a rate of return that's higher than the interest that you're paying. Now, if you bought that laptop and you're using that laptop for your side hustle, you're learning a new skill, you're doing your social media, and this business needs some time to take off because nothing is going to be profitable right at the beginning, but you're slowly getting there. I know the numbers might not make sense in the beginning, but slowly you can get there. Then in that case, you won't consider that item as bad debt. Okay, study loans, education loans can also be seen as bad debt. Okay, that's why it's important to really start planning for your kids' education early. Because you take on that debt, you put these kids through university for 4 years. With the situation in South Africa, it's going to take them a couple of years to get a job. Okay, so in all that time where that debt is not being paid, you don't have any return on that investment, on that loan, on that debt. Okay, it's going to take you a while to actually get a return on that. Hopefully you get a return in the field that you've studied. Then we have home loans as bad debt. Now, home loans on your primary residence for most people would be considered bad debt. I know you're thinking, why is it bad debt? Eventually, I can sell this property at a profit. But right now, if all you're doing is you're paying your home loans and you're not getting any money from it, it's considered bad debt. It's only when you actually sell, and hopefully you sell at a profit, can it be considered an asset. Now, good debt is used for one thing. That's to generate more money. But there can also be a case where it can turn into bad debt and ruin your finances later on. Good debt is used to generate you more money. For good debt, think about things that will give you a return and appreciation. For example, credit cards. Now, if you're buying something on your credit card and that item is not giving you a return, then it's bad debt. But if that item is giving you a return, then yes, it's good debt, because eventually you can pay off that debt, and that item is bringing you income. But also in South Africa, we have some nice loyalty programs on our credit cards. Okay, and if you are wise enough and smart enough to use that credit card within that interest-free period, you're really maximizing on the loyalty benefit of that credit card and getting some good benefits from that, like a lot of cash back and things like that. Discovery has an amazing program that you can use with Discovery Bank, and the cashbacks are amazing on Vitality Money. Okay, now a home loan, when it comes to property investments, is considered good debt. If somebody wants to start investing in property, they would most likely be taking on some kind of debt, because rental property will actually settle a huge amount of the debt that needs to be paid every single month. And eventually, after, you got to run your numbers if you're a property investor. Eventually, after a few years, you could be cash flow positive. And in the meantime, that property is appreciating, you're increasing your rent. It's a very risky field because, quality of tenants in South Africa is absolutely horrid. But it's a matter of finding the right property. In business investment can also be a good debt. Okay, now, when I say business investment, I don't mean taking out huge loans to 100% fund a startup. I'm talking about, growing a business to a point where, hey, you need to buy a bigger machine now because you can't do it by hand, or the 5 people that you're hiring, we're not meeting the demand. So now you're going to go into debt to buy that machine, to get into a new property to accommodate that machine. So using business finance to 100% fund a startup, I wouldn't consider that as good debt. It's to grow an already proven concept in your business. Yeah, so I think the easiest form of good debt out there for most South Africans would be property. And if you are lucky enough to be able to get a line of credit to buy this property, it can be leveraged multiple times. It's about finding that right deal. Check out our property coach that was with us on the Financial Success Summit 2022. It was Lawrence Bowles. DM me on Instagram. I'll hook you up with his details. He has some amazing content that you can learn from. He does one-on-one coaching if you want to get into this property thing to really start leveraging good debt. All right, so that's it for me on this episode of the Wealth Nation podcast. I'll chat to you soon.